Tony D and Little Joan with a screenwriter's rant on Holy Spider, a movie that's getting a lot of buzz at Cannes about a serial killer in an Arabic country. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Check out my books. Links in the description. Comedy Horror in South Jersey. It's the Pineys, books 1 through 8. Thanks for supporting the channel. Now, yeah, this is getting a lot of buzz. Holy Spider. Looks interesting. So basically, it's a serial killer, but I guess in Iran. I think this is Iran. I'm not sure. But definitely in a Middle Eastern country where it is, you got to wear the hijab, the ladies do, and that looks like the Iranian uniform. Could be Iraqi, but I think it's Iranian. So there are, I don't know, corrupt women. I assume they're prostitutes, people down on their luck. They exist in every country. And of course, yeah, this looks very Iranian there, the Amman. But this woman is, not sure what she is. I don't think she's a cop. She might be. I don't know if they allow women to be cops in some of these countries. Maybe she's a reporter. Anyhow, she's investigating the murders, and she has to deal with the, we'll say, sexism of that world. So there's a scene in the trailer. It looks like one of the cops are kind of getting a little frisky there. Not good. So she's trying to stop this serial killer. Nobody seems particularly interested. And he's just strangling these women who he calls whores. And he's basically a serial killer. Now, will she be able to find him, expose him? Could she even get him arrested? At this sort of culture, would they even care that these women are being killed, since they're considered fallen women in this society? Would they even care? That's the question. So it's interesting to me because it's set in another culture that I'm not too familiar with. I know some things about it, but I don't know everything. So, how would this society handle a terrible thing like this, like a serial killer? Would they just ignore it? Would they rather cover it all up and say their society's just fine and dandy and this is all just some sort of misunderstanding? Or will they actually, prosecute this guy? Well, they probably just kill him, I assume. I assume they would execute him if he was convicted. So this is, I can see why this would be touted at Cannes. It is a bit of an edgy movie. It's an edgy movie to make a movie like this at Cannes and show this society and show its sort of dark underbelly. It's not, first off, it's a society we don't know a tremendous amount in terms of the layering and the nuance for something like this. So we've seen movies like this before about serial killers, but we haven't seen one in this setting. And then by placing the killer in that setting, and it says it's inspired by true events. So this may take place in the past, because I noticed she has a Iron Maiden t-shirt on at one point. My understanding was heavy metal was kind of big in the Middle East, at least amongst certain groups. So this probably takes place, it's probably more of a period piece. The cars do look old, so could be Iraq before things went to hell. I think it's Iran, though. Yeah, the technology in the background there, that screams like early 90s, mid 90s maybe. But yeah, inspired by true events. But also true, in Middle Eastern countries, they don't necessarily all have a top technology like the United States has, right? But I'm not seeing phones. I'm not seeing smartphones. So I'm going to ballpark this around 94 would be my guess. 1994. I'm just guessing at that. So first act, pretty standard sort of Law and Order SVU kind of format. They discover the body. This is the first body. This woman is investigating. She's investigating, and they found another one. She's horrified by it. She's trying to tell people, no, what we have here is a serial killer. He's escalating. They're not listening to her. But the latest body sort of changes that up a little bit. Now maybe they've got 3 or 4 that she's connected. She's trying to tell people. They keep telling her, mind your place. We're handling it. Second act, my guess would be she is still investigating, and she is getting pressure not to investigate. The serial killer is sending tape recordings to the news. Another reason why I think it takes place in the past. Who uses little tape recorders anymore? He's saying, come and find me. You're never going to find me, kind of thing. He's taunting people. He continues to kill. And it happens over the course of several weeks, months. Things escalate. She gets closer to finding him. She gets attacked at one point, maybe by him, maybe by other forces, maybe by both. The third act in the movie is either she's so stymied, she literally goes after the killer herself to kill him, or she figures out a way that she's going to trap him, but it all goes wrong, and he's now stalking her, and then in the process of chasing her, he dies, the killer. And then she's lauded as a hero, even though she was ignored initially. It could end very dark. You know, this is a foreign movie, so you could have an extremely dark ending where she goes after the killer and then he kills her. And then he just goes on to kill. Like, they never find him. Maybe. Or that, it could be one of those really esoteric endings where it's like, he dies for reasons that have nothing to do with his murders, and she never finds him. And it's frustrating, and she's looking for him, and she realizes that she'll never find him, and in this culture, at that time, because it's such a sexist culture, women aren't valued, that kind of whole statement. Sort of bigger, broader statement, which is what you kind of have to make that statement in a movie if you're going down that path. Because you can't just end it, they never find him. Like, there's got to be a reason you're doing that. So if the reason is not plot-based, then it's got to be reason, like, message-based. Which could be why they're, saying, stunning and brave. But the fact that you shot a movie in the Middle East at all is, there's a lot of problems with that. I mean, it's going to be tough. But they have their own movie industry, and this apparently is in the home language, so I assume it was shot there. It's not like an American production going in there to shoot it. But it's daring for that culture, because this is probably a fairly taboo subject that they kept under wraps for a lot of years, but only now can talk about it since it's been like 20 years and the guy's probably long dead. And then if it's that close to a real story, then the wrap up is, they catch him or he dies. And then we get to find out what happened to the real people in this movie. So pretty intense. Would I see it? Sure, I'd see this. This is an art house movie. I would definitely see it just to see the cultural aspects of it. I like to see cultures in different movies and how they handle things. So this is new and unique. This is a new twist on an old plot. The whole serial killer, catching a serial killer. And she's a good protagonist because it's like the entire society is almost against her. It's like that society would probably be like, oh, well, who cares? It's just a bunch of prostitutes. And she's the only one that cares. And she's got everything going against her because it's so patriarchal, and they don't even want her to, they just want her to stay home. So, could be pretty interesting. Now, like, the Iranians are a little more cosmopolitan, so it's not like, I think, again, I'm almost sure they said it's an Iranian movie, but the women there have a little more leeway than they do in, say, Saudi Arabia. Like, this can't be Saudi Arabia because women they can't walk around unescorted. I believe they can in Iran. I'm not so sure about the headscarf, whether that's mandatory there or not. And this takes place in the past, so restrictions may have happened since then. And if this is 94-ish, the relationship between the Iranians and the United States at that time, I'm trying to remember, would have been about 20 years, let's say, after the hostage crisis. So most of that would have died down. Would have been the year of Clinton's years, I guess. Yeah, fairly early in the Clinton administration, let's say. Relations probably better than they are now. Probably slightly better than they are now, at least. So it wouldn't have been a wartime footing if this is Iran at that time. So, I don't know. I mean, these days it's kind of iffy. So, I mean, that's the interesting thing about this movie, too. There's a lot to unpack here, depending on what time period it's in. Because of that, that's going to impact it, too. So you're going to see some of that on the sidelines. And that's interesting, too, because I'd be interested to see how people in that culture were talking about the United States at that time, and then you contrast with that and our current relations and what's happening and that kind of thing. So I think it could be a very interesting movie. I'm not always just sort of blindly taken in by the con factor of this. I am a little skeptical, only because it is being promoted at Cannes, and it's not what it used to be, I don't think, at the Cannes Film Festival, but this seems to have a lot of interesting elements. So I would check it out if I found it somewhere in the local art house movies where I expect it to be. And that's it for me, Tony D and Little Joan. Check us out on Odysee, Bitchute, and Rumble for our more base takes. I will be at the Flemington Summer Book Fest this Sunday, Memorial Day weekend. Hope to see you there, and we'll see you tomorrow.